Good morning. Happy Monday. What a weekend. Welcome into the number one Group of Five college football podcast in the world. This is the Group of Five guys, and our mission is to be the voice for the Group of Five football programs, a voice that the mainstream sports media absolutely refuses to be. And we need your help to do that. We need you to follow us on all the social media platforms at Group of Five guys. Go to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your best podcasts. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure you click the like button, share button. Most importantly, tell your family and friends all about us. Or you can download the Varsity app for free. Listen to the show on there. On this episode, we got to recap another wild weekend in the Group of Five. We had several teams make quarterback switches. We get Jeff Murphy's opinion on some of that stuff. We're going to talk about what coaches might be on the hot seat, some playoff scenarios, plenty more. Hope you enjoy the show. Have you had it from somebody born and raised in Lafayette, Louisiana, at a tailgate? Doubt it.
I said Michael Pratt has got to show up and play, and boy did he. 394 yards, 4 touchdowns, 48 rushing yards on the ground, and another touchdown.
Projected getting drafted between the first and third round, that's incredible. The wide receivers are absolutely stacked for the Group of Five.
Yeah, I really appreciate you do for the Group of Five programs, and I think it's great. I think we should get more of this, but you guys are on the forefront of this. And
so I'm thankful for this. I'm glad that you're talking about the Group of Five because I think they get overlooked.
But it's a ton of fun to watch a guy go to the NFL from a Nevada or a Colorado State or a Middle Tennessee or an App State, and fans follow that kid.
Well, Jeff, good morning. We got a big show in front of us, my friend. Big show, big week. A lot of ranked matchups from our top 25 poll coming up this weekend now. A lot of ranked, unranked games. It's getting harder to do the poll. But I got to tell you, I think we hit the nail on the head this week, my friend. And did you even see the logo for James Madison this week? Oh, boy, did I spend time on that.
It was queued up, perfectly centered, had almost the entire JMU logo. It fitted in there, and it's starting to get crazy. I mean, we're getting into the heat of conference. Some big matchups coming up throughout the Group of Five, and you're not kidding. It's getting more and more difficult to do this top 25 every week, but we're having fun with it. We're getting it out.
There's no question, and I think we're to the point now where outside of the top maybe 6, I was telling you on the phone yesterday, anybody can get it. You have, we're borderline about to take South Florida out of the thing because they've lost 3 straight games and been blown out. But I don't know.
We talked about
South Florida against any other team in that top 25, and I still think it's a good game. I still think it's a game you got to watch out for. I still think South Florida, I think they still play Navy. I think that's a game you got to look out for, especially if Byron Brown's healthy. But you look at, it's funny because when we're, the way we do this, just so that you guys know that are listening and watching, we kind of do our own, and then we compare, and then we talk, and we argue, and this team should be ahead of this team. And after that top 5 or 6, I think after pretty much this week after Liberty, who I think we had at 7 or 8, it's like all of a sudden we got like 5 Sunbelt teams in a row, and you're trying to figure out, and then you got like 4 or 5 MAC teams in a row. So then we're like, oh, well, we can't do it like that. And it's to the point now where in the Sunbelt, outside of probably James Madison and maybe Monroe, it's like, I don't know. Coastal could beat them. They could beat Coastal. They did beat them, but they beat them. And then the same thing in the MAC. The MAC is the worst because I think you could take Ohio, Buffalo, NIU, Toledo, Bowling Green, maybe Central Michigan. I mean, you take the whole MAC outside of Akron and Kent State, and they'd be close.
Yeah, depending on where they, what location they play, or they're home or away, how cold it is. The MAC,
What day of the week?
The MAC is like wide open. I mean, it's just so hard to predict. Who would have thunk the Buffalo Bulls, leading the conference, them in Ohio. I tell you what, our good friend Alex Shear,
he had Ohio pinned.
He did. He knows what he's talking about.
Well, and we talk about this quite often with the MAC, and the recipe for winning in the MAC is old school, right? It's run the ball, protect the ball, play good defense, and they all do it. It's just when they decide to do it, right? Yeah. Buffalo did it this week, and that's why they look good against Toledo. And you look at your teams that are supposed to be the best in the MAC. I mean, you look at NIU. I mean, they got the best win of anybody in the MAC so far, but they were 17-7, just kind of a nothing. No, you look at the box score, nothing's jumping out at you. Just won the game. Yeah. Just ran the ball, protected the ball, controlled the clock, play good defense. And that'll win you a lot of games in the MAC, and it might win the conference, and it's going to put you in place to win the conference. We talked about that 2 or 3 years ago when the MAC. I think the year that NIU won it, I think they were 8-4 or maybe 7-5, and then whoever finished dead last in the MAC was also 7-5. So I mean, it's just tiebreakers are aplenty in that conference.
Sprouse, I'll tell you one that I think we've got a dead wrong. They shouldn't even be on this list. Take North Texas out of this top 25.
No, they're good, buddy.
Right now. Take them out.
No, sir. Jeff, why don't you tell us what's on your mind with this?
This team is on my do not bet list anymore. They made the list, boys and girls. They have cost me almost $2,000, Polly, throughout the course of the college football season. I had them on 2 parlays on Saturday, both every leg hit, except for North Texas covering 5.5. I'm done with them. Cam Fancher just decides to show up. Cam Fancher decides to be
he did.
Cam Fancher we've never seen before in the likes of college football since he's been playing. Guy was scrambling, stepping up in the pocket, making good throws. I think at one point he was 90%, I think, at one point, completion percentage. And I'm just like,
you think that's what he finished at?
I'm just like, what is this? Who is this out on I mean, my God.
Yeah. Well, and that's something that we could talk about that now, since we're going to talk about that game here in a little bit. But what did we say? You say this especially. If you don't turn it over, you don't make dumb penalties, you're going to be in every game.
Yep.
And here we are, FAU, who always has players, who always potentially could beat somebody. And here's the game that they don't turn it over much. They until late. They don't turn it over. They don't do dumb stuff, and they're winning that game all game long. But it was quite fitting that the game ended on an interception,
right,
by your guy. But anyway, before we talk about some of the headlines from the weekend, got to talk about our friends at Deca Gray Coffee Company. Make sure you visit decagray.com. Get you the Group of 5 Guys Game Day Dark Roast. I've got several bags on the way in the mail right now, and I also ordered this time around. I did order the pumpkin spice for my wife. See if that'll get the house smelling like fall, get you a pumpkin spice roast going in the morning. But visit decagray.com. Use our promo code GOFG, 10% off plus free shipping. Roast to order, by the way. You click the purchase button, then they roast it, then they bag it, then they ship it. So really good stuff, decagray.com. Jeff, Statesboro, Georgia. What a wild ending. I mean, we got on a Twitter space the Saturday night about 11 o'clock, and it was 23-5. And I had it on. I had Boise kickoff on my patio, and then I was standing in the door watching my inside TV, making sure that game finished the way it did. And we're sitting on there. We're like, well, hold on a second, guys. Georgia Southern just scored. And then, hold on a second, guys. Marshall just turned it over. Georgia Southern scored again. Marshall's got the ball. And Georgia Southern, what a comeback. For 52 minutes, Jeff, the Thundering Herd of Marshall looked like the Marshall that I thought they were. Really more like 54 minutes, to be honest with you. But they go to Stone Earl. And I'm not sure if that was a We think the game's over. We're going to let some backups play. But he comes in, immediately intentional grounding in the end zone, safety. And that is what started this little rally because they gave him 2 points and the ball. So now you're 23-5. They go down and score right away. But then Marshall goes back to Braxton and he fumbles. But in his defense, he let his guard down. I'm done for the night. I did my thing. We won this thing. I'm out. Now you got to put him back in. I'm not saying that is an excuse for fumbling, but kinda. And you wonder, man, a lot of Marshall fans are unhappy with that coaching staff, and I like Marshall. I still think they're a really good team. I mean, I think they're the team that was up 23-3 on Georgia Southern on the road is what I think they are. But then I think they let their guard down and they relaxed. And that is on the coaches because they relaxed, started putting in the backups. But you got to give Georgia Southern credit. And what about them? They made a QB switch, Jeff. And old Dexter, who, funny enough, when I was there in week 1, that's who the fans were wanting because when J.C. French started a little slow. But J.C. French has been pretty good all year. But they make the switch this week, and all of a sudden they come back.
I mean, credit Georgia Southern not giving up, and credit Dexter Williams just being ready when his number's called. That's what you got to do as a backup quarterback because you're not going to get a ton of opportunities. But when you do, you got to take advantage of it. And you engineer a comeback. I mean, and beat a tough Marshall team at home when your entire student body is in the blue room already.
Oh, disgusting.
Having a good time. Ladies and gents, you got to stay. You got to stay. This is a huge conference game in the East. And I know that it looked bleak, but you got to stay all the way through and support your team. But they got it done. They didn't need them. And, they make the change, and he engineers a comeback with a huge touchdown reception at the end of the game there for Derwin Burgess. Hell of a catch. I don't know how he caught the damn ball, but
yeah, great catch. And for you students out there and you people that leave early, look, I get it. It did look bleak, as you said, Jeff, but the end of the game is when they need you.
Right.
They need you when they need a third down stop in the fourth quarter, not in the first quarter. I mean, but we talk about this. How do you keep these people? It's a new era of fan.
Yeah.
But I guess you got to, I don't know. We got an episode for that, but.
Well, they're going to need you this week.
Yes, they are.
Because
they're going to need you early and late this week.
The Dukes of James Madison is a damn good team. I'm on them. I've given them enough flack over the last couple of years, mainly their fans, really, but they're a good team.
No, yeah, I am on them, and as you saw, I did curate the perfect logo for the poll for the Dukes, and I really spent a lot of time on the graphic this week, and they look good. A little extra time for James Madison too to prep for this thing, so that's going to be a big time game. But right now, Georgia Southern sitting there in first place, all alone in the East. Other headline: Army dominant once again over UAB. I mean, listen, I knew about Kanye, I knew about Bryson Daly, those guys. I did not realize how good that defense was. They are so sound. Their linebackers fill gaps with so much, so much conviction. Not afraid to make mistakes, and they just close, man. The second a gap opens up on the line, linebackers are there, they close. Defensive backs are good. Casey Larkin had 2 interceptions. I mean, the way that this is a situation where I almost think, practicing against their own offense a lot probably helps them see plays develop. You kind of can get used to certain keys. You know what the O-line's doing, where the gap's going to try to open up, where that back's going to try to go. But man, I was impressed. Really impressed with their defensive line and linebackers. And I know, look, it's UAB and they are a disaster right now. But Army just keeps rolling. And now Army and Navy both ranked in the AP top 25 for the first time since 1960. Pretty good.
It's awesome. And it was the first time this year that I've pretty much watched that game start to finish. And they call Bryson Daly, apparently they call him Captain America. I know why. This guy's an absolute unit. He runs this offense with perfection. Doesn't miss a lot of his reads. And when he gets the ball in his hands, I mean, one guy's not bringing him down. I mean, he's solid as a rock. He's super athletic. One of the nastiest stiff arms I've seen this college football season. And they just got everything. They got the power, with him and Udo. Noah Short is the speed on the outside for this offense. And they just wear you down. They are going to crush you in time of possession. And then the defense is fresh as a damn daisy because they've been sitting on the sidelines for 8 minutes coming in. They can just play with their hair on fire. All they got to get is 1 or 2 stops. And if you're unable to stop their offense, now you're down 14-0. Now you're pressing, and then the snowball starts. And it starts, and it can't be stopped. And it's so fun to watch this team. I really enjoyed it. And man, they keep this up. Their schedule is very favorable. I think their toughest matchup
They're going to be
is
in the
Notre
championship
Dame.
game.
Yeah. I mean, I think at this point, unless
Either
they
way.
just blow it, they're going to be in the championship game. And I tell you what, nobody wants to go to West Point, whether it's in that championship game or in December if they somehow become the Group of 5 representative.
Well, that's very true, Jeff, because you look at a Tulane or a Memphis or whoever's going to be the rep. Army's going to probably host, assuming they keep winning. Even if they lose to Notre Dame.
Well, I don't know what
they ought to
tiebreaker.
host.
Well, yeah, I guess I don't know what the
Usually it
tiebreaker
goes by
would be.
the playoff ranking, doesn't it?
I think so. So yeah, if Army continues to be undefeated, and I
if
think
there's
it's gonna
not a
come
head
down
to head or
Tulane.
anything like that.
Yeah, because Tulane and Army won't have a head to head. I think that's at this point who it's going to be. I think
like.
Tulane will beat Navy down the stretch. I do, which helps Tulane because at that point they have seen the triple
Navy
option once, and
it'll give Tulane a ranked win potentially.
So yeah, the Americans fun.
Yes, it is, my friend. I'm going to tell you, we got to do something in the off season when they decide. I think this would be fun to do a see where these players end up, like what their assignments are in the military. Like Bryson Daly, I mean, that guy's liable to be some kind of special forces guy,
Right.
But you got everything. You got guys that'll end up, no disrespect, but they won't end up front line type stuff. Then you can have guys that are special forces, Rangers, airborne. I mean, that would be a fun thing to do. I don't know if I guess I don't really know if that's like public knowledge, depending on what they decide to do. So I don't know if we'd be able to figure that out. Maybe we'll see what happens. Other headline: Boise State in the late night. I'm not gonna lie to you, Jeff. I knocked out on the couch. Had approximately 145, but little slow start for Boise. Credit to Hawaii. They came to play. Defensively, they came to play. You don't know how much, that travel's rough on everybody. So maybe rough on Boise, but Genty still had a Heisman game, didn't he? Man.
Yeah, shout out to Boise State getting it done. My angry bet post North Texas didn't go over. I just lost my ass this weekend betting, by the way. The thing that concerns me, this is the first time, and Boise won. So, this is just me looking at the game and nitpicking a little bit. But Hawaii's not a great defensive team. They haven't been. Now, Boise State's defense showed up and shut that Timmy Chang offense down. But they really sold out to stop Genty. And especially in that first half, outside of that long run, I think it was like a 54-yard run or something like that for a touchdown, they pretty much kept him in check. And then, Madsen did well. They basically said, we're going to sell out to stop Genty. We want to see if Madsen can beat us. And what worries me about Boise is he'd throw a couple good balls, and then there was a stretch where I think he threw 4 balls in a row at the receiver's feet where receivers were open. And you get into a situation, you play UNLV. I mean, we'll see him in a couple weeks and then probably again in the championship game. That's how you're going to beat Boise is you just sell out for Genty and you trust that your DBs can try and cover one-on-one and hope Madsen misses. I don't know. There was some cause for concern for me that if you can keep Genty out of the end zone like 4 times, he's going to score. He's that good.
Yeah.
But if you can limit his touchdown, his rushing touchdowns and say, hey, Madsen's going to beat us. And then if you got a team like UNLV that can score, how are you going to keep up? So I don't know. We'll see. It could just be it was Hawaii and it was a one-off, and we'll see how they play next week. But something I saw in that game that was like, maybe this is the recipe.
Yeah, I think you are going to start seeing that, especially like you said, you get a defense like UNLV, or you find yourself in the playoff, and you're getting one of these teams that's going to bring a bunch of guys in the box. They're going to play man coverage and say, "Go ahead, Madsen, beat us." And I'll tell you, I like some of the receivers they got. I like that kid Camper, number 9, Cameron Camper. They got him listed at 6'3", 203. I think he's a little bigger than that. I remember seeing him down in Statesboro, and I was like, that dude's tall. I think he's more 6'4", 6'5". So they've got some receivers that can get open one-on-one. But like you said, can Madsen make the throw? And I think that is some of the concern that some of the fans had, which is why they wanted Malachi Nelson to be the guy so bad. But again, like we talked about before, if he didn't win the job, like he just might not be as good as y'all think he is. So, your coach is going to go with the guy he thinks gives the best chance to win. Now, what you hope doesn't happen is what we've seen across the country a little bit, Jeff, and what Boise State did last year with the quarterback. This whole 2-man thing. You saw San Jose State do it a little bit. Some others, Marshall and Georgia Southern did it not necessarily in a rotation, but just towards the end of the game. You saw Toledo pull their quarterback. You saw a lot of quarterback changes this week. But main thing I want to focus on is this rotation. What has it ever worked?
I'm sure there's an outlier, at a couple places, but not really. I mean, you don't see it in the NFL. You really don't see it at college very much. You have some teams that try and get their wild, maybe a little bit better of a runner in there, and they run some wildcat stuff. I just hate it. I hate it because I went through it a little bit, and you just cannot get in a rhythm as a quarterback that's rotating, every other series, or if you're the guy, the wildcat guy that comes in, and you're, they know you're coming in to run the ball, and then they give you a pass. It's like you haven't thrown a pass all game. You're ice cold. Quarterback is all about like momentum and getting in a rhythm and throwing in rhythm on time. And when you just get foisted in there and are asked to throw, like it's just really, really difficult. And then, or if they're like, all right, we're going to give you this drive, and then we're going to give this guy this drive. It's so hard to really get entrenched in the game mentally and just really timing wise with your guys. It's just so difficult. I hate it. I don't know very many teams that it works for. And San Jose State did it like throughout the entire game. And it just, I guess you're waiting for somebody to step up and take over, and you can't. I don't know. I'm just not a fan. I think that's why San Jose State ended up losing that game. Credit to Colorado State getting it done. I want to clarify one thing I said, when I was talking about Boise. Joe says, Genty still had 200 yards. Yeah, but that was against Hawaii. And when you get into a tough matchup, guys that can play with you, these games, and we've seen it happen to UNLV specifically a couple times, the game comes down to like 3 or 4 plays. That's what it comes down to. And if those 3 or 4 plays are on the shoulders of Maddox Madsen, I hope he can make it. I do. I'm rooting for that kid. I was rooting for him before the season. But it comes down to those 3 or 4 plays. If he doesn't make it, it doesn't matter how good Genty is in the back. It's your ball game.
Do you think that, Hawaii's can't be the first team to have really sold out to stop Genty, though? It's kind of the argument I get into on Twitter with people that say, they haven't played anybody, but then you look at Oregon, who shut down Ohio State's two big guns. Like, he's doing the same thing against every opponent. So it's like you could say, like, Oregon's the only good team he played, or Hawaii's bad, or whatever. But his stat line, it's like it seems like it doesn't matter who they're playing. Stats going to be the stats. But I am with you, because they shouldn't have been in a game that close with Hawaii. And you're right, but he's kind of been like that in all the games. You know, he gets like 2 or 3 just big runs, beast mode type runs, and that puts his number. But yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to. I don't think that there's a defense in the country right now that's that good. I mean, Georgia maybe, Texas maybe, but I'm trying to think of a defense that might. Tennessee's got a pretty decent little defense. Ain't nobody else. I don't. And
look,
I
guys,
don't see
he's
those
the best
teams
player in the country. Don't
by
don't.
far.
I'm not saying he's not. So like, don't crush me. But
By far. Well,
and
yeah,
they got UNLV
and I
up
don't think
next, so we'll on the 25th.
Yeah, we're gonna find out.
We're gonna find out.
I don't think that. I don't see like the SEC schools in a playoff like bringing 8 guys into the box. They're too prideful. They'll think that they can stop it just by playing sound defense.
Yeah.
And then I think they're going to find out pretty quick. But anyway, we gotta move on a little bit. We got to go through some of these scores in the American. Hey, Steeple. Good morning, my friend.
There he is.
Steeple, the one time I picked Coastal Carolina on a weeknight and James Madison takes him out to the shed. So I blame you for that a little bit, Steeple. I did that for you. UAB and Army, we talked about it a little bit. Memphis, South Florida, that game was moved to Orlando. This was part of that stretch for South Florida, we said, right? They went Alabama, Southern Miss, Miami, Tulane, Memphis. I mean, just about as tough of a stretch as you can have. And then you get the Storm. Now, for South Florida, can you bounce back and have an 8-win season? I think they can, and I think they probably will. This is a good team, and they had a lot of momentum. They can't let this stretch, because again, this is what we talk about with all these the schedules for all of these teams. It's like if they played Alabama week 1, then they had 2 conference games that weren't Memphis and Tulane. Then they play Memphis or Tulane. Then you have 2 conference games that aren't. And instead of being, what are they right now, 2 and 4? Instead of being 2 and 4, you might be 4 and 2, but then lose those other 2 games later. So, for your fans, you got to be able to look at the schedule and the stretch that they got put in. But I want to talk about Memphis. Maybe I'm a hater, man, but to me, they just always look pedestrian. I mean, Hennigan, 28 of 40 for 208. I mean,
yeah,
okay. Well, why are you throwing it 40 times? That's my question, Jeff. I hate that stat line, because if you're completing 28 passes for 208 yards, you know what that tells me? I don't know. I correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but that tells me check downs, wide receiver screens, wheel routes, all the kind of plays that I freaking hate, because you're just throwing it out there, hoping one receiver can make a block and the other receiver can make the other guy miss. And 9 times out of 10, neither of those things happen. And you get a tackle for a loss of a yard. But I don't know, man. Memphis just doesn't do it for me. Now, defensively, they're really good.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You tell me about Hennigan in the offense.
I didn't watch a ton of this game. There were so many games going on. I was flipping back and forth, and I was locked in on a couple of them. Memphis, with all the firepower they have on offense, to me, they should be scoring like 40-something points a game, and they're just not. And credit to South Florida. The back end of their defense, it has been the strength of it. They've had tough games and tough matchups, but I mean, I think this was an example of that their defense is good, and then not having Byron Brown hurt them. Just short drives, having to punt it away a bunch. Memphis just there's just something about this offense that it just doesn't roll. Like it's it's almost like tough for them
Yes.
to score. And to me, it just doesn't make sense because you got Rock Taylor, Blankumsey, Mario Anderson. You have all these pieces, and it was like 21-3 for like the entire game. It felt like, no, 14-3, excuse me. And then they scored late in the fourth quarter. So Memphis is 5-1. They're 1-1 in conference. Still one of the top teams in the American. They haven't really clicked on offense like I've wanted them to.
I think you hit the nail on the head with it. It seems tough. It reminds me of when I'm trying to watch the NBA Finals and the Heat are playing against somebody that they're way overmatched against, like the Denver Nuggets or something. And my wife's like, "Oh, but babe, they're only down 10." And I'm like, "Yeah, but we're trying so hard to like everything they're doing is like the toughest play ever." And Jokic is just waltzing around, prancing around, making every single thing they shoot. Like you have no chance. That's what Memphis reminds me of offensively. They're just trying so hard.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, no rhythm, it seems like to me. Anyway, North Texas and FAU, Jeff, we already talked about it because you lost your bet. I'll hit it quickly because I know it'll frustrate you. But Chandler Morris, DT Sheffield, put on a show.
That kid's special.
Put on an absolute show.
DT is a special player when he's got the ball in his hands, by the way.
Yeah, and I do want to give a shout out because we have been probably a little hard on Cam Fancher. He played his ass off, man, and they should have won that game the way he played. To be fair to him, but anyway, UTSA and Rice. I want to say something. I don't know if we have any UTSA people in the live chat right now. You're starting to sound like some other fan bases we know. Okay, you're calling for Jeff Traylor's head, the guy that could have left y'all out to dry on multiple occasions and has built this thing into a legitimate program, and they're having a down year because they lost a lot. It's fine.
You better be careful.
Allow him to build.
Be careful for what you wish for.
Mm-hmm.
Fan base, because you could be a lot worse off, let me tell you. And he's had multiple, I think, opportunities to go places, and he hasn't. And you start creating some noise about being an ungrateful fan base, he'll walk. He will. Yep. And, more power to him if he does. So understand where your program's at. You lost program builders, what's got you to this point on your roster from last year. I know you got to be able to replace him, and they haven't. But he deserves some grace. He does.
Yeah, he deserves the benefit of the doubt for sure. And then also shout out to Rice. Hey, EJ Warner, here's the guy I've been waiting for. 347 yards in the air, 2 touchdowns. Had himself a little day.
Yes, he did.
Going on to Maction, Ball State and Kent State. Who would have thunk it? That'd be such a freaking barn burner. 37-35, Ball State gets the win. Would have thought that would have been a little more room for error for Ball State there, but it was not. Toledo, 15 points. Buffalo, 30 points. Tucker Gleason gets pulled. Richter looked pretty damn good. I don't know what they do going from here. And then Buffalo offensively, here it is in the MAC, right? They weren't amazing. They were okay. They were fine. They ran the ball well. They protected the ball. But defensively, again, Sean Dolak, again, 15 tackles for this kid, 10 solo tackles.
It's wild.
This guy's all over the place. We got to check in on Jason Henderson at Old Dominion. I don't know what he's doing. I haven't watched a ton of Old Dominion, but Sean Dolak is putting his name in that hat too.
Sure is. And this is, I hate it for Toledo. They just couldn't. They looked from the start of the game. They didn't look good. They put the ball on the ground on the first drive. Tucker Gleason fumbled. They got it back, but it was just a sloppy game by Toledo. Our friend Alex was telling us that he was worried about the offensive line, and you're kind of seeing some of that stuff come to fruition right now. And Buffalo just played a sound physical game and got the win. AJ Henderson, 142 yards on the ground. Hell of a day for him. And Buffalo's first in the MAC right now, tied Ohio.
You know what's funny? This is when winning just solves everything. Because for Toledo in the preseason, we sat here and talked about them losing a lot and replacing a lot. But then they come out and they win a few games. They beat Mississippi State, and we're like, I guess we forgot what they had coming back. And now they lose a conference game, and you're like, oh, well, yeah, they did lose a lot. And it's rearing its head. right? You're trying to fix up the O-line. Now you're questioning your quarterback, who's been pretty good all year. So that was a tough one for Toledo. We'll see how they bounce back because they got NIU, I believe, this week. So that is going to be a big one. Miami, are they? You watch
Where
now.
have they been?
Miami's about to find themselves in this mix here in about 6-7 weeks. You just watch, but I mean, I don't know how they do this. They scored 38 points. Gabbard only completed 10 passes. 4 of them were touchdowns. I mean, where's that explosion been?
I don't know. This game made me mad because this is the Miami team. We were like, this is the offense we thought preseason. You got Gabbert coming back. You had some pieces. I know they lost some, but you had this great defense to complement it. And the offense just hasn't done anything up until this point. And then lo and behold, they wake up. Can they keep it going? If they can keep this going, they're a top team in the MAC. If they go back, if they regress and go back to the team that they've been, then you'll get more of the same. But finally, great day for Gabbert. I'm happy for him. I've been waiting for it.
Yeah. Yep. Akron, Western Michigan, close game. Western Michigan gets that win, 34-24. NIU 17, Bowling Green 7. Well, I mean, this is right here is bread and butter MAC football for NIU. Nothing jumps out at you. They just get the win. Play good defense, run the clock, protect the ball, win the game. It's quite simple, really. Football is a pretty simple game if you just do those little things. And then Ohio, tight one, gets to win over Central Michigan. Ohio finding themselves at the top of the MAC right now. So Bobcats, this thing's wide open. Wide open. It is. Maybe more wide open than any conference in the country right now. Hitting the Mountain West, Friday night, UNLV, boy, they look good. UNLV, every time they've been on TV, has really put on a show. Even in the loss to Syracuse, nobody walked away from that game thinking UNLV wasn't good. And once again, they do it. They let Utah State kind of final score shows it a little closer than it probably was. But, man, Ricky White is a new man since the quarterback change. They are, that go-go offense is going, as they say.
This game was awesome. You had two of the best receivers in the country going at it, and both had fantastic games, both over 100 yards receiving. White had 2 touchdowns. Royals had 1. Man, Jalen Royals is a special player, and I hate that he's on a team that's 1-5. Shout out for him for staying and trying to figure it out. But dude, he's a kid that's going to be electric in the NFL. Whoever gets him is going to get a gem.
Yeah, he's really good. And then they had the other receiver, Jack Hestera, had a very almost identical stat line as Jalen Royals did. 10 catches, I think 152 or something like that.
Yep.
And a touchdown. So really good game. Really the star players showed out, but UNLV, man, we got a really good ball game coming up in 2 weeks here.
Such a contrast of styles, right? The physical, we're going to run it right at you in Boise State. And then this go, spread them out, triple option, a lot of triple option principles. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah. We talked about Boise and Hawaii, San Jose State and Colorado State. Colorado State, look out now. Are they going to start to gel a little bit? And see, this is where, right, preseason polls and look, we do them. And then even halfway into the season, you just don't know yet. You don't know how you're going to be against your conference. And then you don't know how much better you're going to be at this point in the season for what happened, for Colorado State against Colorado and Texas. Texas right now looks to be the best team in the country. So you can't, hell, they beat their rival Oklahoma by just as many points as they're beating any Group of 5 team. So you're going to hear that argument down the road. I can promise you that. But then you look at the Colorado game and you watch that game, and Colorado State played terrible, and they didn't get blown out. They got beat pretty handily, but they just played terrible, looked terrible. But now all of a sudden that offense is starting to get some movement going. So they could be one to watch here in this Mountain West too.
And their schedule is very favorable down the stretch. They got Air Force, who's been rough this year. New Mexico at home, which New Mexico is playing good football right now. They got a win last week, but they got Nevada, who's a tougher matchup, Wyoming, who's down, Fresno State seems to be down, and they finished the year with Utah State. They got to clean up some things on both sides of the ball, but I like their schedule. So if they get hot and start rolling off a couple wins, they'll be in the mix in the Mountain West without having divisions this year. Look out for the Rams, man. Who knows?
San Diego State beat Wyoming. Kind of a tough one to watch there, but San Diego State gets it done 27-24. Air Force in New Mexico. Boy, Air Force is bad. But New Mexico, that kid Dampier, that quarterback,
he's good.
He's a problem. Yeah, they're going to mess somebody's season up, I'm telling you, in the Mountain West. Washington State and Fresno State. Fresno, I don't know what's happening. Are they falling apart, Jeff?
I'll tell you what's happening. You lost one of the best coaches, offensive minds of all time in Jeff Tedford. And I don't care what anybody says that, the new coach was there last year. He's been there. He was the interim when Tedford stepped down last year. You're losing like the brain of Tedford. I just think that has been it. When you have that mind, when you have your quarterback coach in the room with Mikey Keene, he's not playing great right now. He hadn't been. He had 2 picks on Saturday. He's turned the ball over multiple times this season. And when you turn the ball over, you get out of games. And they only lost by, 8. But that's 2 extra possessions you gave them. And you can't do it. It's frustrating because I love Fresno State. I like watching them. I just think that's the biggest story. Their offense has not been the offense of old, and you're seeing it on the field.
Yeah, it's a bit frustrating. How about Nevada getting that win over Oregon
Huge
State?
Win.
And man, happy for Nevada and that coach Jeff Cho. He was fired the hell up after that game, and I love to see that from a coach because that tells me like he knows. Look, he knows what they're supposed to be, and he knows his players know what they're supposed to be, and they don't give a damn, and they go out there and they work their ass off and they play their ass off, and they're getting some wins. And they had that early win against Troy, was a huge win. He was fired up for that, and they're getting better too. That's the scary part. They're getting wins and they're getting better. They're starting to play better as the time goes. But hell, call Oregon State what you want. That's a Power 4 win for Nevada, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. And Savion Red, 23 carries, 137 yards, and 4 touchdowns on the ground. Hell of a performance by him. Brendan Lewis again shows that he's a dual threat guy. Not a ton in the pass game, but just making plays with his feet. And you got a run game like that. You put 353 yards on the ground and 5 touchdowns. You're gonna be in most games and probably win a lot of them. Love to see it. Absolutely love to see it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, for Oregon State and Washington State, the Pac-2 remaining teams that have started to play this Mountain West schedule, both of them have already lost to Mountain West teams, but they were both 4-1, I think, going into this weekend, both have been pretty good, and they've got Power 4 wins themselves already. So it's funny. A lot of this goes back to Genty's stat line against different teams and everybody. They haven't played anybody. So, buddy, Washington State, if they were sitting where they were, because they hadn't played any conference games at that point anyway, if they were sitting there at 4-0, played a non-conference schedule, but there was still a full Pac-12, they'd have been a top 15 team, and that would have been a huge win for Boise State. But now the narrative is, the Pac-12, there's no such thing. Same players, same coaches, same guys on the team. It just is amazing the way that they spin these narratives to make a team look good or bad. But anyway, it's a big win for Nevada. Going into the Sun Belt, Old Dominion, I think it's physically impossible for them to play a game and not be decided by a touchdown or less. But they get another one, and they get a win this time around. They hadn't won many of them this year, but 21-14 over Georgia State. I think we need to start a ticker and just have an Old Dominion 1-point game or 1 possession game tracker. We can just post it every week, see where they're at.
I swear, take them on the road when they play and fade them at home. The wins seem to come on the road. They're just a bunch of road dogs. Henderson didn't play. I think he's injured at the moment, by the way.
Not good. He got injured last year, banged up quite a bit. I mean, hell, when you're making 20 tackles a game, you're bound to get a shoulder or something like that. ULM, the Warhawks, Jeff, this was the recipe to fall back to earth after a big win. You could play at home against a not great opponent. This is the game that I shouldn't say bad teams, that mediocre teams lose. Good teams win this game. And Monroe did that. This is a good ball club we got on our hands down in Monroe, Louisiana, Jeff.
Yes, we do. Love to see it. Shout out to their coaching staff for getting it done and winning in a place. You know, Brian Vincent's done an incredible job winning in a place that historically has been damn near impossible to win at. They're 5-1, 3-0 in conference. It's just, you know, Ahmad Hardy, 15 carries, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. They're playing sound football. I know it's Southern Miss, but like you said, they had every reason to lose this game after a huge win against James Madison.
Now, my question is, does Monroe, Louisiana get down the way Lafayette, Louisiana does? What's the tailgate scene and what's the food scene in a place like Monroe? I mean, are we talking all the good stuff? Are we talking boudin? Are we talking jambalaya? Or is it more of maybe I could see Monroe being, I don't know, it's a little more country, isn't it? I know that's where the duck calls are made. So
we played there. I think we played there twice when I was at middle. I can't remember, but I remember after the game, we were in the parking lot getting on the bus, and one of the families had cooked a bunch of box meals for us, and it was fantastic food. I do remember that.
I don't know. Maybe we got to get down to Monroe, Jeff.
Might have to. Hell, they might be hosting a Sun Belt championship.
They might be. I mean, if it's them and James Madison and they beat James Madison, they damn sure will. Arkansas State, Texas State. Texas State is starting to roll right now. See, and this is where everybody's jumping on us for having Texas State ahead of Sam Houston in the poll. But this is the Texas State that we saw with our own eyes. And that's what's happening there. But 41-9. Played really good defense. Didn't allow a touchdown on defense. I mean, this was a pretty good performance for Texas State.
Yeah, if they can put a few more of these drubbings on the schedule, they'll get back up in the top 10. I know some Texas State fans were a little upset. We dropped them one even after a win. But, look, we know how good they are. They just got to play that good week in and week out.
Yep. And then App in Louisiana. I hate it for App State, but their season is slowly, well, I shouldn't say slowly, it's quickly getting away from them. And then Louisiana just keeps on rolling. I know Terry Johnson, every time they win, he thinks they're not that good. But
it says they're too high in our poll again.
Too high in the poll. Are they 5-1?
Yeah.
6-1 now?
5-1,
who'd they lose
2-0
to?
conference.
They lost to
Tulane.
Yeah, and not by much.
I think they're a pretty good team.
I think they're damn good.
Yeah, I can't figure out App State though. I mean, Joey Aguilar had 4 interceptions. Can't do it. Had some weird, questionable calls down the stretch of this game. Hate it for all of our people in Boone. I mean, they're going through a lot off the field, but their performance on the field has been relatively consistent at this point. And I keep pulling from them. I took them in a money line, a different parlay, which I lost just because of the juice they had in this game. And they were in it. They were in it. Even with the turnovers, they were in it. And then it just slipped away. And hate it for App State. Louisiana looks good.
Yeah, and I'm pulling up the scoring summary right now, but I mean, there it is again. 74-yard touchdown pass. I mean, how are you giving up a touchdown on the first play, like on multiple drives every week? I mean, that was like the third drive of the game for Louisiana, but it's like, how are you keep giving up these big plays? I mean, at some point, I don't know, man. Nothing pisses me off more than giving up big plays, especially like on the first play of the drive. Talk about momentum killers, because that means you went down and scored more than likely. If it's a 75-yard touchdown, is they got on the 25, so you probably just kicked off to them. Man, not good. Not good. We already talked about Marshall and Georgia Southern. We got a couple Tuesday night games before we get to some voicemails. You better love football if you're gonna watch football on Tuesday night.
I love it. The good news.
The bad news for me is I love it, and especially I love the Blue Raiders. And I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna watch them play a Kennesaw State team that hadn't won yet. And I'm not confident. I am not confident at all, my friend. Kennesaw State going into Murfreesboro. The fans have already turned their back now, right? This is how quick fans are they're all fired up because they think Stock was just holding the program back so much. Although, I don't know that Stock ever had a team quite this bad, but we knew this was going to happen because all the production from Stock's teams left, and a lot of them are starting at some big time programs too.
Yep.
So you got to give Mason some time, but I don't know. I wish maybe we need to have a separate, just Middle Tennessee only podcast, Jeff, to really dig into this crap, because
so much going on.
Yeah, there's so much going on, and there's so many layers to it. But anyway, Kennesaw State at Middle. I don't know. Can Middle block these guys? I doubt it. I mean, honestly, Jeff, I'm very nervous. You mess around and be the first team to lose to Kennesaw State.
Well, we dropped the game last year to Sam Houston at the end of the season. So I will be there in attendance. The Murphy family will be there. All 289 screaming Blue Raider fans. We will be
huge turnout,
a huge contingent of it. Tuesday night, fall break for Middle Tennessee. There's already nobody going to be on campus. Not that honestly would have made a difference to begin with. I don't know if that's a Conference USA thing or why they scheduled that. But man, it comes down to this. I was at the game last week in Ruston. They have so many injuries on top of losing the upper class talent that they had a year ago. And I just hate it for guys like Nick Vadiano, who's a great quarterback, just is constantly running for his life, but still trying to make plays, putting ball on spots. You're getting ball to your receivers and they're putting the ball on the ground. They're fumbling. And then your defense, quite frankly, looks like they don't want to tackle anybody, have no interest in it. But you're playing Kennesaw, who has not looked great on offense, who looks to be undersized against everybody they've played. This is their best chance to get a win. They have UTEP later in the season. That'll be a boiler room brawl as well for those old school wrestling fans who remember one of those matches. But God, they got to get it done. Please get the win. My boys need a win because they're just like, Dad, why are we so bad? I'm like, son. I said, son, because not only, guys, you got to understand, we're Raider fans, Las Vegas Raider fans, bad ball club. Middle Tennessee Blue Raider fans, bad ball club. Oakland A's
Warriors,
fans,
Jeff.
Bad ball club. I mean, the Warriors is, if I didn't have
basketball
them,
season's coming up. Basketball season's coming up for me too. I mean,
we need a
win. Kennesaw's quarterback, he's turned it over a bunch. So I think you got a chance to turn him over. You gotta start winning soon, because you've already lost a generation of fans in Murfreesboro. You're gonna lose another one if you go another 3-4 years of losing.
Yeah.
You got La Tech and New Mexico State. I think La Tech's a pretty good club. They sometimes play well. They looked good against our Raiders last week.
I think you got to stick with the freshman, Evan Bullock. Kid had 5 touchdowns a week ago. Roll with him. He seems to give you guys a good chance. He's athletic enough. He's a tall kid. Was slinging it all over the place. Let him roll and see what you got.
Yep. And then here's the one that I think, is actually going to be a watchable game. You got Troy going down to Mobile playing South Alabama. Almost said South Al there. I know they don't like that. Listen, I think South Alabama is quite a bit better than 2-4. Gio Lopez, I mean, it got 12 touchdowns, 1 interception for him on the year. I don't know what the quarterback situation is at Troy for tomorrow night. I mean, they had to go down to their third string last week, their last game. So I think South is gonna win this game. It is a big rivalry game, so you never really know. I just think Troy, they lost too much. They lost a bunch, lost way too much, and they're having to rebuild a little bit.
South Alabama's got the more talented roster, I would say. Interested to see if Goose Crowder, if he's playing. I think he gives them the best chance to win. And I love Jamal Pritchett, the receiver for South Alabama. He's a stud. But Troy's got a great receiver in Devontae Ross too. So I think South Alabama wins this game just sheer off of athletic ability. But they have been, like they were last year, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Which South Alabama team is going to show up? I have no clue. I legitimately don't. And if you get the team that turns it over and makes, dumb penalties, Troy will have a chance.
Yeah, and Gio Lopez, if you remember, Troy was who he came in against last year, and down at Troy, and I was texting y'all like, hey, they got this freshman kid pretty damn good. So we'll see if he does it again. They got to run the ball a little bit. Old Fluff Bothwell,
good player,
back in the mix a little bit in this one. But give me South Alabama, unfortunately, for the Troy fans in there. Jeff, we got a bunch of voicemails. I don't know. What are we going to do? Split them?
Yeah, we're going to split them today and Wednesday's show.
All right. You guys keep calling that hotline, 615-900-4286. Hot takes, trash talk, predictions, immediate post-game reaction, all that, and we will play it here on the air. See what we got.
Let's get into it. Loading.
Hey, this is Cuthbert from SSN Army, and I'm just here to say that Army is putting the nation on notice. Did you see what we just did to the University of Alabama, Birmingham? We are 6-0, we are headed to a bowl, and we are headed to the college football playoff. I'm telling you right now. Now look, I know that our schedule has been a little bit softer than we would like. It's not our fault. We're in a conference. We don't get to pick who we play and in what order. But look at what we're doing. We're putting up 40-plus a game. We're holding the opposition to 10 points a game. My boy, Bryson Daly, Captain America, cool head, hot heart, he is putting on a Heisman-worthy performance this season. And I get it. Who have we beaten? FAU, UAB, Tulsa. These ain't world beaters. It's all good. All right? Why is it we're only putting up 40 and not putting up 80? Because halfway through the third quarter, my boy Dwayne Coleman, our number 2 QB, rising senior next year, who's going to be leading the charge for the Black Knights, he's in the game. We're getting second string, third string, fourth string guys into every single game, which is why we're not just good this year, we're going to be good next year. So don't worry about the pundits. Don't worry about all the other BS. All right? Put the house on Army because this is our season, baby. Go Army, beat Navy.
Love it. Great phone call. First Army phone call ever, too.
It is. And I'm such an idiot. When he said from SSN Army, I'm trying to think of what abbreviation that is, like what battalion this guy's in. And then I'm like, oh, this is Sideline Sports. Now, that being said, I could tell by that call I don't know if he's still active or at least was in the military.
Yeah, you could tell.
That call. Yeah, you could absolutely tell right there. That guy, I mean, talk about getting you fired up, but he's spot on. And that's interesting to know, too, about all they're going to be good again next year, probably.
I mean, they're rolling. I mean, that offense is unstoppable. Defense is fresh every time they come on the field. I'm here for it.
Scary stuff.
It is. Appreciate the call. We'll keep it rolling.
Group of five guys. Chuck here, a.k.a. Rational JMU fan. Appreciate the moniker.
You're welcome. You deserve
Three
it.
things that are true in life, gentlemen. Death, taxes, and JMU taking Coastal to the woodshed. Third year in a row, twice in Harrisonburg, once down in Conway, that the margin of victory by the fighting JMU Dukes has been by more than 30 points. I see where good old Mr. Steeple got a little possibly over his skis from his pregame message. I don't know how he likes to have his crows served to him, but either with hot sauce or on a cold platter. But anyway, great comeback win, bounce back win. I was at the game. Crowd was juiced. Students looked great. Just really packed it out. Definitely what I wanted to see. They responded well. Line was strong. Offensive, defensive lines, just all around great performance. But that's a W. You'd like to get those at home, and we did. Got a little bit of an extra time to prep for Georgia Southern next week, and just keep this thing going. Now's the test is the other way. Bounce back from a poor performance down in ULM country, and then now we don't want to think that everyone's the JMU's world beaters and go down to Statesboro and lay an egg. So got to stay focused, got to stay poised, do what you do. But AB3 looked great, and just an all-around great performance. So just wanted to chime in on that and maybe recommend that Steeple not get so anxious on predicting a score. It's all good, Steeple. But anyway, y'all take care, and go Group of Five guys, go Dukes. All right, bye.
Appreciate you, Chuck. You deserve that moniker because you're damn near one of the only rational ones in that.
He does. Well, I have a prediction, Jeff. I have a prediction that when it's all said and done, maybe not this season, maybe not next season, but at some point we are going to come to a fruition, come to a come to Jesus moment with the Dukes, and we are going to embrace the James Madison fan base, and they are going to embrace the Group of Five guys, and they may become, a little favorite for us. You know what I mean? I think it's coming. It started with me fixing the logo yesterday on the poll. And
baby stepping. We're baby stepping.
I mean, I honestly, I did not see any James Madison complaints on their placement this week. I tell you, I'm telling you, Jeff,
they're good.
It's going to happen.
Shout out to Bob.
No, they're
Chesney,
really good.
Taking this program
I was
over
gonna
and
say,
staying where they've been.
No, 100%. I was going to say on that game for them this week, see, I think Georgia Southern's got more of that big comeback win. Everybody's patting them on the back all week. They're the ones that need to be careful about laying an egg. And I mean, they might. James Madison's good enough where even if Georgia Southern plays well, they could beat them. But
we'll preview that game later in the week. I think that one, that's going to be an interesting one. I have a prediction for that game.
Well, that's why you don't want to go to Statesboro, Jeff. I get it. I know where you're going.
I got a baseball tournament. I got flag football. By the way, my boys had their first flag football game on the same team. First time they've ever played on the same team. So that's been pretty cool.
Well, you're spot on your kids. Like Dom just looks professional, shirt tucked in, ready to go. Nico's got the headband, the mouthpiece, the whole thing. Unbelievable.
White cleats, white gloves. I mean, it was fun, man. It's a lot of fun seeing them get to play. I'll say this though, Nico playing defense, had this big old kid on the other team. Never played a down of any type of football other than in the backyard. And this kid comes barreling down, runs Nico over, but guess what? Comes up with that flag, baby. Come up with the flagpole. Yeah. So
now, did he brandish a weapon after that?
He did. He took he lifted his shirt up and.
Yeah, smart. Jeez. What else we got, Jeff?
Let's keep it rolling.
What is up, gentlemen? It is your friendly JMU fan, Grant Horan. I know it's been a while since I've called in and appreciate everything you guys do week in and week out. But here's the deal. I had to wait for the stew to basically come to a boil, as they say, right? Now, don't get me wrong. After watching last night's JMU game, I am enthralled at the fact that we continued our yearly tradition of absolutely laying the smack down, absolutely dogging the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. But here was my frustration watching that, right? It is, where was this team when we played ULM? And it almost solidified the idea that ULM did not beat JMU. JMU lost to ULM. Now, of course, that is frustrating because the playoff implications and all the things that come to it. And I also don't want to let Alonzo Barnett off the hook last night. Because, yeah, he played a solid game, but there was plenty of throws he made that were questionable, and against a decent secondary, a couple other, like, key, star secondary players, could have had a pick or two, if not three. Who knows, right? That all said, go Dukes, onward and upward. My question then for you, right, is, JMU's got this one loss against ULM, and let's just say hypothetically ULM goes ahead and wins out the rest of their season there, only having that one loss to Texas. Let's say JMU then plays ULM in the championship game, beats them. Do we think that is enough for them to be in contention for that Group of 5 playoff spot, or does a 2-loss Boise State team still get in, saying basically Boise loses to ULM or and UNLV in their regular season game, but beats them in the championship game? Anyway, that's my question, boys. As always, go Dukes. Appreciate everything you do.
Appreciate you, Grant. It's been a while. We hadn't heard from you. I forgot.
Well, now
we got two rational.
Well, I was going to say, now we have the rational JMU fan and the friendly JMU fan.
We got it. Look, we're building them one at a time. One at a time.
That's it. That's what you got to do. Relationships, Jeff. On his question, it's going to be tough right now, I think, for anybody outside of Boise, UNLV, Army, Navy, Memphis, Tulane.
They need a lot of help.
Yeah, because I think that's what he's getting at, is a win against ULM, even though ULM is looking pretty good. And if you're beating ULM in a championship game, I mean, that's going to be a 9 or 10 win team at least, is not going to do the same as a win for Boise against a UNLV, or UNLV against a Boise, or a Army against a Tulane, or something of that nature. So I don't know. It's going to be tough, but all you can do is control what you can control and keep winning. And normally it works itself out, right? Like, normally you're not going to see, like, normally at the end of the year, you're thinking, oh my God, this is going to be a panic. And then somebody loses, and it kind of solves that problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think they just keep winning. They probably get some help. They might be all right.
I think Oregon's win against Ohio State helps Boise State. Even if UNLV knocks off Boise once, even with 2 losses, I think the fact that Army's undefeated and looks like they're going to be a 1-loss team hurts James Madison, because if you have a 1-loss Army and a 1-loss James Madison, Army's going to get the nod. Even though,
especially if that loss is to Notre Dame instead of ULM.
Yeah. So it's
now, if they get now, that being said, if they get blown out, see, that's where I think there's room for different stuff, right? If Army goes and loses to Notre Dame by 3, then yeah, okay. But if they lose by 28 points or 35 points, then in my opinion, that should take them out of it.
Yeah, if JMU runs the table, I mean, you have the North Carolina win where you put up 70. That looks good. Although North Carolina is not great this year. You have a chance. Like you said, control what you can control, win the rest of your games. You never know where the chips are going to fall. You're not out of it. I think a Sunbelt, 1-loss Sunbelt team you're a damn good team, because the Sunbelt is a physical, tough league to win in general. So, all right, let's get a couple more in here, and then we'll get out of here and save the rest for Wednesday.
Group of 5 guys, Josh Bevel here. Calling on my drive back from Statesboro, Georgia. Disregard my first voicemail. Little intoxicated, but hey, this one will be better. Be better for the people. And I'll keep it clean this time. But hey, All I gotta say is, Sprouse, you freaking doubted us, man. You doubted us. Largest
He
fourth
sure
quarter
did.
comeback in school history. We were down 23-3 at the start of the fourth quarter, and we won 24-3. I'm at just a complete loss for words on how we did it. J.C. French got knocked out. Cold. And the refs can't even freaking review it. This was single-handedly the worst officiating crew I've ever seen in my entire life. Ever. I was with my dad, Lenny B. He was with Jared Benko, the athletic director, and he said that Jared was blowing up the Sun Belt commissioner's phone last night during the game. Like, he had a whole damn page of text messages that he was blowing up about this officiating crew. Our kid gets knocked out, and we can't even review it? And then we had a player, Caleb Cook, offensive lineman, suspended for the first half because the Sun Belt said he pushed a ref in the South Carolina State game. It's complete bullshit. But look, I will say this. Largest comeback in fourth quarter in school history, played on ESPN. And guess what? No coverage! No coverage by ESPN or anybody. I hate it. But you know who will give coverage? The group of five guys will give coverage, baby. Love the group of five guys. Love Georgia Southern. And damn, I love college football.
Appreciate you, Josh.
That's great. Yeah, he texted me about his first voicemail. He said, "Hey, tell Jeff disregard." I think he's got it.
One day we'll have to play all the disregard
all
ones
the first ones. Yeah, all the first ones from Josh or Stu.
Yeah,
you're damn right, Josh. We will talk about it. I mean, somebody's got to do it.
That's right. Somebody's got to handle the people's business. Yeah, awesome win. Big one this week. Big one in Statesboro.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to hit one more, and then we're going to save Steeple and Joe's and Stu's right. Trying to get some of the newer people calling in their voicemails on Monday, and then we'll get the regulars this week on Wednesday because there's some good ones for Wednesday too. Don't get it twisted. And we'll hit our last one.
Good afternoon, Group of Five guys. This is Iverson Reed. I'm a first-time caller, fifth year student of Coastal Carolina University. Now that I've had a night to kind of just mull over everything, last night was rough. Just got blown off the line on both sides of the ball. Didn't take advantage of the opportunities given to us, and overall just being the perpetual punching bag of JMU, which I must say is getting old pretty fast, and it's something that's just got to change. Like, historically, we've been 1-4 against these guys since 2005, but I think that the next step in Coastal's history as a football program and becoming the program that we think we are is more or less building a team fit to beat JMU. Unless we can build a team that's geared towards beating James Madison, we are not the program that we think we are. Right now we're at that. Right now we're in the really good tier. We're not there with the JMUs or the App States of the world, and thoughts and prayers with everything that's going on in Western North Carolina and Boone. But back to the topic at hand, we need to figure out how to crack this code against JMU. So I will say last night sucked. I know that's not the end of the world per se. We just need to win out and hope Georgia Southern can knock them off next week. But more or less, yeah, that's the next step in this program, is that they need to figure out how to topple JMU. Appreciate what you guys do for covering the G5 and following them exclusively, and just giving it the spotlight that it very much deserves.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you calling in.
That's a great call. It reminds me of like Texas State, right? Having to finally get over the hump of beating UTSA. I think that's kind of where Coastal's at with James Madison. Now the difference is they're in the same conference. But yeah, I mean, as a program, I think he's spot on. You're not quite to that tier.
And that's seems to be since they've come in the conference, which is crazy to say. I mean, they're kind of the big dog. I mean, they are, whether you like it.
Yeah.
What is it? Whether you like it or you don't, learn to love it, because James Madison doesn't seem like they're going anywhere.
They don't. And it for James Madison, boy, would it feel good to, after the years of not being able to win the conference, just still. And then everybody thinks, well, you lose your coach and some players, like, okay, well, they'll fall back to earth and they'll never win it. Oh boy, were those people wrong.
Shout out to their fan base, man. They showed up.
Boy, they did.
Every week they
stayed,
show up at home.
Yes, they do. It's amazing, isn't it? It is amazing how big time your program can be with the support it needs, and the wins come and the fans keep coming. Man, it's awesome.
Yes, it is.
It is awesome. Every program deserves that. Every single program deserves that. Well, that is all we got for you guys on this Monday morning. Thank you, everybody, for jumping in the live chat, for listening on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Make sure you follow us on all the social platforms at Group of Five Guys. Hit the subscribe button wherever you get your best podcast. Download the Varsity app for free. Listen to the show on there. Or you could go to groupof5guys.com, get you some Group of Five Guys swag. Hope you guys have a great Monday and hope you have the best week ever. We'll see you Wednesday morning.